What's up, lit lovers? Welcome to StormCrows TV, the channel where two lit chicks talk about all things reading and writing. I'm Emily Sloan, and today I'm super excited to bring you a new series called Quick Lit. In as little time as possible, I'm going to take one of these and tell you all you need to know to scrape by in your high school English class. Will it be enough to pass a test? It can't hurt you any more than not reading the damn book. Obviously, there are spoilers, but I think that's why you're here, so let's move on. So today we jump right into 1930s California in the novel Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck, a Nobel Prize winning 3 times married war veteran who at one point was so poor he lived on a boat because food wasn't free unless you caught it your damn self. Also, he stole bacon. It's pretty neat. Now, assuming you paid attention in history class, you should know that the 1930s was not a fun time for a whole lot of people. Why? Because at that time, there was this little thing called the Great Depression. What was the Great Depression? If you don't know, Google it. Because that's its own fucking video. We don't got time for that. So we got this guy, George Milton. Small, wiry, kind of a dick. Then we got this other guy, Lenny Small. Smalls is not so small, not so bright, and the first time we meet him, he is petting a dead mouse. For real. There's a lot of nature. It's really supposed to be beautiful, meant to remind you of paradise or an Eden-like setting. Why do I say that? Because everything is dandy and great. And then men came along. They ruin everything. Not because they want to, but because they have to. Basically, by existing, man destroys nature. We meet George and Smalls. Turns out, they're on the run because Smalls has a thing for touching soft shit. Why is that a problem? Well, in the last town, called Weed, he grabbed a chick's red dress and wouldn't let go even when she screamed. As you can imagine, people don't take kindly to grabbing women's dresses and not letting go when they scream. So, they had to leave town, and by leave I mean run the hell away, and get a new job. The major takeaway of chapter 1 really is that George tells Smalls if you do anything stupid, because let's be real, Smalls has got the mind of a child, he's not really working with a full toolkit if you know what I mean. Come back to this clearing and wait for me. Also important, don't forget this because it shows up in the novel a lot. George and Smalls, they have this dream, right? And that dream is to own their own land and tend some rabbits. For George, it's the land. For Lenny, it's the rabbits. Because remember, soft things. We meet everyone. Seriously, every other character in the damn book is in this chapter. You got the boss, he doesn't matter. You got Carlson, he barely matters. You got Slim, Slim. But he really doesn't matter that much either. Really, the big ones here are Candy, the one-handed old swamper or bunkhouse cleaner dude who has a deaf old dog. Curly, a small man with a serious case of Napoleonic syndrome who hates big guys like Smalls. And Curly's wife. She never gets a real name, just Curly's wife. And if that isn't a mouthful... Anyway, she wears red, and as the guys imply heavily, she's a even though she really only flirts with people. But I mean, it's f*** her, right? What a hoe. The dog dies. The old deaf one I was just talking about. It's kind of a big deal, which we'll talk about later. But basically, all the guys bully Candy because the mother's old, toothless, and smelly. Essentially useless. So they euthanize the dog. With bullets. Why is that important? Because we got a lot of people in the book who feel useless. For example, a one-handed swamper. For another, well again, we'll talk about that towards the end. So the dog is basically what we call in the literary world a symbol, and his death is what we call foreshadowing. Anyway, upset Candy overhears George and Lenny talking about their dream of land and rabbits, and he decides, if I'm useless, might as well be useless with these guys, and offers up money to make their dreams come true. The dudes are excited because up until this point, it's only ever been a dream. It's never really been close to reality. George says we could probably get this in a couple of months. Don't tell anyone. Oh, last few things about this chapter. Lenny gets a new puppy. It won't break as easy as mice. Oh, and he breaks Curly's hand. So the puppy's screwed. Why does he break Curly's hand? Well, Curly comes in all pissed off because he thinks his wife's flirting with Slim. Can't blame her. And because Slim is bigger and stronger and better, he can't fight him. So he fights Lenny instead because Lenny's a big dumb idiot. Lenny doesn't fight back until George says something to the effect of, stick 'em. Now, what does it look like to have your hand crushed? Here, let me show you. The guys all go into town, the cat house. If you're not sure what that is, think of another name for cat, and you're golden. Now everybody's gone except for a handful of people. You've got Lenny, you got Candy, Curly's wife, and Crooks. Now up until this point in the novel, Crooks is really only mentioned. You kind of see him here and there, but he hasn't really had a huge feature. So what's different about Crooks? Did you get it? Yeah, he's black. In the 30s, people tended to notice that. Crooks has his own room in the stable. He doesn't like when people go into it, partly because he's not allowed to go into their rooms, because segregation still exists. Lenny doesn't get that because, again, mind of a child, don't know if you picked up on that yet. He goes in anyway. Crooks realizes he's dealing with the dummy. Now, even though it doesn't take a genius to see that, arguably Crooks is the most intelligent, or at least most educated person in the novel. It is shown that he reads a hell of a lot more than everyone else. He decides to f**k around with Lenny. Why does he do that? Everyone f**ks around with him. And it's all fine and good. Lenny doesn't care that much until Crooks begins to say bad things about George. Like, George isn't coming back. What would you do? And Smalls doesn't like that. Begins to get a little bit threatening. Crooks, who is handicapped by the way, got kicked in the back by a horse. Walks like that, that's why they call him Crooks. Wisely backs down. Apologizes, says, I only did this because I'm lonely. Got no one to talk to. Sucks. Then Candy shows up and starts talking to Lenny about the land and the rabbits, because it's not like George said, hey, don't tell anyone. Crooks thinks the idea is stupid, but then he thinks, hey, maybe I could join up with these guys. I feel useless too. Everything's good, you think there's this whole brotherhood going on, and then Curly's wife shows up and tries to fit in with the boys. But they tell the hoe to leave, because she's a hoe. She gets upset, as you would expect when called a hoe, and threatens to have Crooks hanged because she can. That shuts Crooks up, and he decides he's better not chasing rabbits with the guys after all. He feels like it's better to stay put in his place. The puppy is dead. I know you didn't see it coming. So Lenny tries to hide it, but because he's Lenny, he does a piss poor job at it. Good thing the person who finds Lenny with the puppy is Curly's wife, and she doesn't give about the puppy. She's just glad to have somebody listen to her. You see, Curly's wife suffers from the same shit Crooks suffers from. Not the bent back, but, you know, loneliness. And Curly sucks. Who'd have guessed? So she tries to find people who'll just listen to her. But she's a hoe. Anyway, after deciding Smalls is just a big baby, she decides to let him touch her hair because he likes soft things. And she's not wrong. He is kind of a big baby, if a big baby was a full-grown adult-sized male with Hulk-like strength. When she tells him to stop petting her hair, he doesn't. So she screams. He panics. She screams some more. He covers her mouth, tells her to shut up. She keeps screaming. He breaks her neck. You know, as you do. Lenny has the sense to know he's f***ed up. So he hurries to the clearing where George told him to go. Candy finds her, gets George. George then proceeds to shit in Candy's Wheaties when he says they can't go get land now. Then he leaves for a moment, and we get this nice monologue from Candy eulogizing what a lovely lady Curly's wife was in life, and how she was just misunderstood, and maybe they just treated her wrong. Yeah, I'm just bullshitting you. He basically calls her a bitch and says she ruined everything. He goes and gets the rest of the guys. Curly sees blood in his eyes. Not because he actually liked her, but because he sees this as a chance to get his revenge. He organizes a hunting party, and they decide to go catch the big bastard. Before they leave, though, they realize that Carlson's gun is missing. I'm sure that won't come up later. Lenny is in the clearing. He talks to his Aunt Clara, who gets after him for ruining shit. Aunt Clara is dead, so that's fun. Then he talks to a giant frickin' rabbit. We're getting into some Donnie Darko territory here, and honestly, I'm kinda digging it. I'm here for it. If you're in high school watching this, Donnie Darko is a movie about you don't care. After Smalls finishes his acid trip, George runs into the clearing. They have a nice little talk, and George tells Lenny, everything's gonna be okay. I've never been mad at you. I love you so much. You're the best friend anyone could ever have. Lenny asks George to tell him about their dream. George does. And in the original, look at the flowers moment, George kills Lenny, while the idiot's super happy about rabbits. How does he do this? He euthanizes him. With bullets. Story ends when the guys all show up to the clearing, and Slim sits down with George and says, let's go get a drink. Now, a lot of people really hate this ending. Well, guess what? It's tough. Steinbeck's dead, you're not going to get a sequel. Literature doesn't exist to make you feel good. There's literally no other way for this story to end. The scene where George and Slim are sitting and chilling and talking about getting a drink leads the reader to assume that George is going to slip into the lifestyle of the other men, because up until this point, what made George different from everyone else was that he had Lenny. Everyone else has been kind of solitary in their own way, and they never really understood the friendship between George and Lenny. But now that Lenny is dead, he's like everybody else. Obviously, we have a lot of motifs in this book. Nature versus civilization, racism and segregation, loneliness, mental health, sexism. That's not all of them, but hey, if you want quick lit, that's all you get. My take on it is it's a pretty good story, engaging characters, it's a really quick read, but I don't really jive with the women are temptresses vibe. I mean, think about it. There are 2 live women, Clara doesn't count, but live women throughout the entire story. They both wear red. Red is the color of temptation, particularly when you're talking about a specific apple in a specific garden in a specific book and a specific religion. And a lot of American authors back in the day followed that specific religion, and they incorporated a lot of those themes into their novels. So you have George and Lenny's dream. This is their paradise. The reason the other guys can't even come close to this sort of dream is because they spend all of their money on booze, on whores, on material possessions. They don't care about reaching paradise. They're stuck in that moment. They give into temptation. George and Lenny are above that. What costs them their paradise? Curly's wife, the hoe in red. So why the f does the book matter? Of Mice and Men is one of those novels that often appears on banned book lists due to its vulgarity, racism, and treatment of women. Here's the problem with that. Yes, the story has some vulgar moments. One example is Curly, who wears a glove on his left hand full of Vaseline. He does this to keep his hand soft for his wife. But you know what else is full of vulgarity? Life. There is also racism in this book, but Of Mice and Men does not attempt to endorse racism. In fact, one of the themes you pick up on in chapter 4 from Lenny's perspective is that racism is a wholly taught behavior and is not inherent. This was also the 1930s. And why that matters, I'll talk about here in a second. Lastly, there's the treatment of women. I just hit on that, and yeah, I don't like that, but is that a good reason to ban the book? No. Here's the thing. Steinbeck wanted to write a novel to reflect life as it was happening. He wasn't interested in making you feel good. This is one of those moments where you hold a mirror up to your face and it tells you the truth. The 1930s in the United States was ugly, it was awful, and it was unkind to many people, but especially to the mentally disabled, people of color, and women. This is one of the reasons why Of Mice and Men is valuable, is because it is a snapshot of that time in history. This is why your teachers are forcing you to read it. So that's the gist of it. This is a story of 2 men in an unlikely friendship who are trying to survive in a very ugly world, and they realize sometimes you can't do that and your dreams just can't come true. Real cheery stuff to start off the series. Of course, if you want to know more about it, feel free to pop down into the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. As always though, if you want to know everything about the novel, read the damn book. Join us next time for The Great Gatsby. If you liked what you saw and you want more, like and subscribe and ding that bell for notifications. If you want me to cover a specific book, drop your request in the comments or message me on Twitter or on our Facebook page, 2 Lit Chicks. Until next time, stay safe, read a book, and have a wonderful day.